Shalom Aleichem, everybody. This is Theological Discussion. I am your host, Christian Anarchist, and with me are several wonderful fellow brothers and sisters in Christ. We have Deidre, we have, and I saw she put a banner up, we got Candy Johnson, we have Keefe's the Canadian Chipmunk, we have Matt
Hey, it's Keefe's the Elite Hunter.
the elite Canadian Chipmunk Hunter.
Close
No,
enough.
but I'm kidding, yeah. But then we have Matt Yester, our theological Calvin homeboy. We have Maximus. We have two new people here that are new to the show. We have Pin and Troy.
Yo.
Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
Now, Pin I know is a non-believer, but I'm not sure what Troy's positions are
Troy
on this.
is also an atheist.
All right then. But as always on Theological Discussion, atheists and theists are always open to theological discussion, to come in here and discuss this. And today's topic is a bit of a controversy. Genesis chapter 34. Yes, and we are going over a whole entire chapter, and the topic is the rape of Dinah. Was Shechem justified in the rape of Jacob's daughter Dinah? Was it right for Dinah's brothers to kill all the men of the city that Shechem was from? And are fruit smoothies a good idea? Well, we're going to find out the questions to those.
I can answer the last one right now.
I'm for all of those except for the smoothies. I think those
Okay,
are fallen.
you know what? we can't be friends no more.
All right, but I got the verse pulled up, and I'm going to read the summary of it. So Jacob, who is the son of Isaac, he had a daughter named Dinah, and so I think she went out, and there was a Shechem who was the son of Hamor, which was he was a king or a prince or something of a country. So basically, this was a royalty issue. But anyways, Shechem saw Dinah. He took her, lay with her, defiled her. So he pretty much just raped her. And I don't know if y'all can equate this to rape. Then third verse says, his soul claved unto Dinah, and he loved this damsel and was speaking kindly. And I think there was a verse in the Bible where it says the way to avoid this is, as long as you confess your dying love, then, and y'all get married, then the whole thing is pretty much forgiven. And that's what Shechem did. He said to his father, I want to marry this woman. And Jacob heard this happened, and his sons were, and this is where the brothers come in. They were doing the whole thing with the cattle, and, Jacob held his peace until they were come. And I think, basically, Hamor and Jacob were trying to talk things out. They were trying to arrange the thing. But the brothers didn't like the idea, not because the sister was raped, but because that the Jews were the circumcised people, and Dinah basically had sex with, even if it was rape, with a person that wasn't circumcised, and they didn't consider that holy, I guess, or good, or pure. So then an arrangement was made, and I don't know if it was Jacob or the brothers that managed to convince Shechem and his people, but he convinced all the males to get circumcised. And I guess that's how then they said, if you get circumcised, then you can have all of our women, and we can have all of your women. So basically that way they would, try to get a peaceful coexistence. But after saying that, let me find the verse where it shows the next attack. Okay. And it came to pass on the third day, and this was after they got circumcised, they were sore, probably because of the travels, and probably because, imagine, your foreskin just got cut off, okay? And the two sons of Jacob, which were Simeon and Levi, they took each man his sword and came upon the city boldly and killed every single male. They slew Hamor and Shechem with the edge of the sword, and took Dinah out of Shechem's house. So I think, yeah, Dinah may have went to with Shechem. Came upon the slain and spoiled the city. They took their sheep, their oxen, their donkeys, and all their wealth and all the little ones and their wives. They took captive. And Jacob said, you troubled me to make me to stink among the inhabitants of the land. I think Jacob was worried now because people were now going to come after him and that his city was going to be destroyed. And when he was saying this, the brothers then reply, and this is the last verse of the book of Genesis, chapter 34. Should he deal with our sister as with a harlot? So based on the summary here, what is y'all's opinion? I mean, do you think that it was, because the rape part's a controversy that atheists like to bring up all the time, saying God is okay with rape as long as it's the woman is being asked to marry, or the father,
The 50 shekels.
Yeah, the 50 shekels. But instead, I don't think it was 50 shekels. I think it was just Shechem proposing and asking the father, rearrange this marriage.
Well, I can tell you that was just downright sexy, that story.
Okay, yep. We got the atheist who gets a hard on from rape stories. Why don't we just point you to hentai? Why don't we?
It's a joke.
But anyways,
let's make it MLP hentai. Just sorry.
I thought you were going to talk about Genesis, my friend.
Alright, but
Well,
does
a couple
MX
things I wanna-
actually... Does MX
Hold on.
get the
Hey,
point?
keep his hold on. Go ahead, Deidre.
A couple of things I want to point out with is that Dinah is a passive victim in this assault. We don't really hear much from her at all. So unfortunately, like a lot of these stories in the Old Testament, we don't hear from the woman's perspective a whole lot. But what it appears to be is somebody that got lured away from their camp and kidnapped and raped. Just that. She wasn't charmed, she wasn't seduced, she was kidnapped and raped, and I just want to point that out because in this narrative she is pretty much a passive victim.
Yeah.
This doesn't.
And that's the thing with a lot of women in the Bible is you don't hear much of anything from them at all.
And just so y'all know, I'm going to let y'all talk, and while y'all do that, I've got a book that, this is why I decided to bring it up. I got this book called The Manners and Customs in the Bible, and I rented this from my library. And this actually gives a little more background to not only the story, but also to what the culture was like and how these practices were.
I'm glad you brought that up because I am very familiar with a lot of the customs, which a lot of people do not consider when they're reading the Bible, that that there are many cultural laws and or governing factors that have absolutely nothing to do with God or were not standards or laws that was laid down by God. And a lot of people will attribute their behavior and say, well, why did God tell them that it was okay to do this or that? But that wasn't, God didn't tell them to do that. They had their own customs.
I agree with Candy. There are very obviously some things in the Bible that were very political and not theological at all.
I'm actually going to play devil's advocate and question if this was actually a rape.
Oh Lord!
Well,
I know, Deidre, but
I know.
This is like the worst possible thing.
No, Deidre. No,
Hold on.
Deidre.
If I'm wrong, then I'll not make an ass of myself in the future, which is good.
All right, so he wants to play devil's advocate and ask, where in the context would it say rape? How could we know? Okay, so verse 2, it says this: and when Shechem, the son of Hamor, the Hivite, prince of the country, saw her, he's referring to Dinah, he took her and lay with her and defiled her. So there's three words, there's three little tiny sentences there. He took her, and then he laid with her, and then he defiled her. So it was all happening in some order. So first he had to take her, then he laid with her, and then he just started defiling her.
Okay. So with regards to the word took, I could understand that as mostly playing to the Hebrew power structure, because if you are because being that you had as a father guardianship or stewardship over your own daughter, and someone was to sleep with her, then yeah, it would be kind of considered a taking, because usually a father is supposed to give away, whereas to take is merely to take away from the father without marital custom, and to defile, of course, could mean that she became less likely to be married. With regards to later, the next verse says, "And his soul was drawn to Dinah, the daughter of Jacob. He loved the maiden and spoke tenderly to her." So,
Right.
so this mostly seems
Well,
like a seduction to me, because rape is
yeah,
kind of a forceful taking,
but this
manipulation.
is hold on,
I'm
hold on,
gonna
hold on,
I'm gonna
Deidre, hold on,
point
Deidre,
out.
hold on. I want to answer this because I'm glad you brought that up. You're
Mhm.
talking about the verse right after the one I just read, right?
Exactly, that one.
Well, I mean, think about this. Do you think it's not possible for a rapist after the act to like do all that sweet talking, but at the same time it's still rape and still doesn't the woman's not liking the thing? I mean, I watch uh what's it called, Law and Order Special Victims Unit, and these kinds of things are portrayed like that sometimes.
Exactly.
So so it doesn't say, "And then he loved the maiden and spoke tenderly to her." This is kind of how I think it's describing his
It's the
overall.
wording.
And I think what it's describing is the overall relationship or
Well,
feelings he had to
A
her.
one-sided version.
all right. Well, this.
Wait.
All right. Well, let's go to
Well, what about?
Let's go. Hold on. Let's go to the scripture expert on this. He's the one that does all the hard studies. Matt, what can you tell us about the instance involving the rape here in the first
Well, I
few
was
verses?
just posting a note here. Just it's been a while since it's not something I completely off the top of my head. The term violated, it's in the New King James, or defiled in other translations. It's the same word used for Amnon's rape of Tamar in 2 Samuel 13, verses 12 and 14.
I see. So it's not so considering the context of the words being used, and it's not really associated with just plain old fornication, but with rape
Right,
and
because
What
this,
you are picking up is
Wait,
that the
wait.
rapist does have feelings. Yes, the rapist does.
He
The
says,
rapist does have feelings. That's fair enough. And yeah,
first spoke kindly literally means spoke to her heart.
okay.
I want to look at the he took her phrase real quick, because what if that's similar to the classic literary meaning of took or take? When somebody says, "I want you to take me," or "I want to take your hand," that's almost like just taking them as their wife, as their spouse, as their partner, what have you.
Yeah, I actually did
This
look
was
that one up,
kidnapped.
and that one does have other context where there is consent. For example, in Genesis 4:19, Lamech took to himself 2 wives.
hmm
um, can I interject?
Yeah,
Sure.
go ahead.
Sure. Go ahead.
In this case, if they would have noted some reciprocation of feelings, or whether she was okay with it or not, this was a specific case of where there was, like Deidre said, there was a one-sided issue
hmm
because the women weren't really allowed to have emotions or feelings about anything. They didn't even get to choose their mates. So, but when the brother, what upset the brother was, and if you look at the end, he said, "Is it okay for him to treat my sister as a harlot?" That is where it shows that there wasn't a reciprocation. Okay, because if there was any type of reciprocation on the female's part, then I don't think the brother, and this would be led to speculation, but I don't think the brother would have been as angry or styled it or in similarity to a prostitute, which is what a harlot was back in those days.
Okay. Yeah, this
Okay.
seems to be pretty much obviously a rape in this case, but I think there's a little
Yeah, you
more
think?
to it than just rape. It's obviously not okay with the person who did it, not because they did it, but because of who they are.
Right. But then, and the other thing then is what follows is that, once Shechem committed the rape, he then asked his father to, I want to marry this woman, make it happen. And then Jacob got involved, and I think that he was going
Yeah.
to try to make it happen. But let me ask y'all what y'all's opinion on this is. Apparently, the brothers were angry about this, not because the sister was raped, but because the sister was just had sex with
No, they were
someone.
angry that she was raped.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, not just because of that though. It was because
No.
that they weren't circumcised.
Well, they were playing a game
Well,
there.
I want to touch on something that Deirdre said, that this is one-sided. We don't hear her voice at all in
Right.
this.
Nope.
We also
Because
don't hear the voice of the people on the other side on this either. What
Right.
if we're only hearing it from the people who didn't like that it happened?
right, and that's the
What
other
if
thing though. The culture at that time, especially in New Testament, and this is why I think also that Christianity can do good with eyewitnesses because back then women weren't treated as reliable eyewitnesses,
right.
which is why I mean. And whenever Christianity with the resurrection started, the
Mhm.
first witnesses were women. So if you're wanting to make up a lie, why would you want women to be your first people to help spread this quote unquote lie? So I
Yeah.
mean, and that's probably the main reason why we don't hear her side of the stories because women weren't considered reliable
Well,
eyewitnesses.
I brought that up because it's a little suspicious when you only hear one side of the story, right? For all we know, that these people just didn't like the fact that her. For all we know, I'm not saying this is what it is. For all we know, that these people just didn't like the fact that their sister slept with a man who they did not agree with, and they wanted to call it rape because they didn't like him. We don't know the full story here.
Well, with regards to that, it could have been, as long as we're getting on to terms of suspicions,
Yeah.
it could have been the fact that he might have been deceiving her or trying to woo her previously, because
Yeah.
he said, and of course that might have drawn suspicion onto her testimony. And of course,
Yeah.
this would kind of reflect the ancient mind of women not being reliable.
Right.
That could be a possibility, although that is.
Well, the whole thing with the one-sided story, for all we know, is that she did consent. For all we know.
Well, it is very unlikely on many from more than one aspect, but most importantly, because of their customs, she would be shunned and unbelievably you could not imagine how they would treat her to be consensual in that type of manner. So for her to have been consensual is not the same as in our time. If a woman is consensual, she's not looked upon too bad, But back then, she was like lower than dirt. Okay, she was already were already disrespected. So for her to be consensual in a sexual act, that was she was less than nothing. If she was consensual, so it was very unlikely that she would have been consensual because of the consequences.
Well, see, and it gets complicated. It gets even more complicated from there. Because what if she did consent, and so they didn't have to shun her? They either lied for her or she lied.
Well, again, we're playing blame the victim. As the story is read, it is read as a rape story. And
Yeah.
when we try to pull it away from a rape story, now we're trying to say, well, maybe you weren't really raped, and this is what our society does all the time.
Yeah,
Were you
No, I'm
really
not.
raped?
I
I
want.
don't know if you really were raped. I wasn't there. I didn't see it. I don't know if I can trust you.
With today's
Didn't go to the
society,
police right away.
your body knows how to shut down when it's legitimately raped.
Yeah, is this legitimate rape? Question mark. Like
See,
let's
I
just
hate people
let's just
that
call
do
it
that. I legitimately
non-consensual
do.
sex. Because here's the thing, it wouldn't be in her interest to have consensual sex because exactly the reasons that Candy cited. There would be humiliation. There'd be social if I can say the word okay, social rejection. The
She
word's
could
just not
not,
coming.
she could not, it was against the law. She could not marry another. He would be her only option. He knew he was wrong. That's why he tried to cover the shit up after. Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, that's cool. You can. It's cool.
We're all
We're
adults here.
relaxed.
Okay.
Not just that, because it's a Christian show that's relaxed because we got all kinds of people coming in here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, he tried to cover it up because not only would she be looked upon wrong, but rape was not a what you call that? They didn't condone rape either. Okay. So he tried to cover it up and say, well, I really did care about her. Well, why you ain't marry her to begin with, or offer to make an arrangement for the marriage before the sexual act, okay? So this is clearly he screwed up. He tried to cover it up, but there was the brother and the family was really upset because it's like, now you done defiled our sister. Now you trying to cover up your sin.
Well,
yeah, I definitely think the brothers, it was not about circumcision. They did have a plan. They were planning on revenge. Absolutely.
if I just might throw something in there,
Go
Genesis
ahead.
34 doesn't seem to be a prescriptive chapter within the book. It's not
No.
like it's not like one of the laws. This is what you do. In
Yeah.
fact, this
Yeah, because the
this-
laws weren't written yet. This is
Yeah.
in Genesis, and
I
those
know.
came in Exodus, right? Just
Yeah,
making sure
but-
for all the audience watching.
and just to continue my point here, I think this really shows the dysfunction that was going on between what first happens, where the daughter is raped, then as a way to make amends, everything kind of gets convoluted, and well, essentially a whole city a whole people essentially are just killed off.
Yep.
I think
They all have to pay
Yeah.
the price for one person's doing, which I don't think is very biblical, you know.
Well,
Well,
I want to reiterate that I'm definitely not trying to blame the victim here. I just think it's really suspicious that the people that are telling the story have a specific problem with the fact that the other people are different. I think, aside from the rape, that's the problem.
Well, actually,
No,
that
I
bothers me.
disagree with that interpretation with Christian anarchists. I think the convincing them to circumcise was part of a revenge plot.
Well,
no,
that's
I
the thing,
think
though. Then what's
I
what's the
think, wait,
verse
if I
that
could
shows
just
that?
finish my. Sorry, I didn't finish my point here. I think
Oh, okay.
what the specific chapter is trying to illustrate is the folly of revenge, because what ends
Yes.
up happening is on Jacob's side he has, it's not about the rape. Yeah, granted, rape is a serious crime. I'm not
Yeah.
saying it's not playing some kind of role here, but the main point is the problem in resorting to revenge as opposed to kind of making peace and settling it that way. I think that's what's being stressed here.
All right.
And of course, what happens is Jacob's camp is now under more attack, and of course, near the end of it, it's because of kind of vigilante justice, where the sons are taking revenge into their own hands without having a plan. I think that's what it's showing. I don't think it's prescribing
Absolutely.
any
All
kind
right.
of behavior or any way for Jacob to actually respond to problems with rape.
I
right.
absolutely agree.
All right, Matt. What's your take on this? Then, do you agree with them, or do you perceive something different from this?
Pretty much what D was saying. They use the uncircumcised as a weapon against their enemies,
Right.
as that argument in order to get them
To weaken
on
him.
his side.
All right. So
Yeah,
they did
in order to
actually.
revenge.
All right. So it was definitely they did it because they were upset about the rape.
Yeah, imagine if you're an adult and you in those days
Right.
circumcising
They wanted
yourself.
an excuse for revenge as well. And
Yeah, it is a good
here in
excuse.
my study Bible. It's saying most likely Jacob's other sons joined Simeon and Levi in plunder in the city. Jacob's sons let righteous anger over sin turn into unrighteousness, unforgiving vengeance, and references Ephesians 4:26 as well to reflect
Right.
on them there.
So we got that part now. Now we go to the second half, the vengeance. Okay, so they didn't like the idea of, you know, the fact that Shechem defiled the daughter. So their plan then is to sneak into their town and not only just killed Shechem and Hamar, but every single male that resided in the city, as well as taking their stuff, taking their money, um, and they even took with them the women and children captive.
Yep.
So,
Well, if you know their culture, all
Mhm.
right, what they did to that one act, we may consider, all right, in our culture, that was just done to her. But you got to understand their religious culture at that time. One, you don't mix with under uncircumcised. That was a part of their religious beliefs. You do not. They didn't even take wives of other people. So not only did he rape her, but he wasn't even of their own. So that was a defilement that was just like their whole. You know, when God would kill, he would kill the whole generation off. This is why he got the reputation of being so vengeance, because he wouldn't just kill one; he would kill the whole family. So their actions were in line with how God would deal with certain situations as well.
all right. Okay, so
Well, the thing is another thing that they did was for the circumcision was they said that we can have your women and you can have our women. What exactly did they mean by that?
They
like
were
they were
they were
basically
convincing them. That's how they're convincing them.
like saying if
They-
you like
Okay.
if you
It's
cut
removing the
your
barrier of intermarriage.
yeah, like if you get circumcised, then you're allowed to not just have your women, but you can also, if you want to date or well, not exactly date. I don't think they dated, but if you want to marry one of our women, then you're able to if you cut that foreskin off.
Okay.
But basically, that's what
That makes
the
sense.
whole thing was.
So they
But
tricked
yeah,
them, really.
Yeah.
like
I mean, it's kind of messed up.
yeah. Do you think uh, God was happy with this with the slaughter? With
God's
this
silent on this a lot, and
Yeah.
and and you
That's
will
what I've
read a
noticed.
lot. We'll read a lot into Judges. There's some weird stories in Judges, like the concubine that's cut up into 12 pieces and stuff. And it seems like God's silent in a lot of these strange stories. So
Yeah.
I think it would be a mistake to read these stories as like this is a prescription for what we should do. Instead, sometimes when I read it, I think of this is why they put in laws in place, because people were going vigilante, kind of like what Maximus was saying. People were, like these were angry brothers. They weren't concerned. Gio probably will have insight on this because he's Jewish. They weren't concerned that they were just no, I'm not. I mean, I'm serious. They weren't concerned just because they were uncircumcised. They were brothers, and with brotherhood, I mean, let's face it. Any brother whose sister's violated, they might take violent action. I mean, they might have violent feelings. It's very common
Yeah.
for big brothers to stick up for their sisters, and I don't think the ancient world was much different in that way.
Yeah.
The ties that bind, I mean, they still exist. It's still in our biology. It's still in the way that we think and do things. It's just that now we have laws and society, and we've progressed and organized ourselves to the point where we don't have to do vigilante justice. Because vigilante justice, as we see in this story, goes wild. It's not just
Yeah.
the two rapists that get in trouble. It's the
It's the
whole city.
nation.
All right,
Yeah,
so
so
I
I
want
think we can all agree that the tricking a whole city to cut off their foreskin, which they probably didn't want to do, even if it was rape, that's not justified.
right, but
No,
here's
most
all
not.
right. So hold on a second. All right, so we got a new guest with us. He's new to the show, but I've managed to see him a couple times. This is Gio Torres, or if that's how you say the last name. But he is if I'm correct, a Reformed Jew. Is that correct? Okay, I don't think his mic is working today. Oh,
It
there we
does.
go. Oh, okay.
It does work. It does work. I'm just actually in a public area, so I just don't want to talk too much.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah, but if
all
you
right.
guys totally need. If you guys want me to talk about something, I'd be more than welcome to shed some light if you guys like it.
We're talking about
Yeah.
Genesis 34, the incident where there's a rape, and then the guys that are the perpetrators. What is in the background?
He's in public place, like he said earlier.
Oh,
But
okay.
but what we're talking about, yes, is Genesis 34, where Dinah, the son of Jacob, gets raped. The rapist proposes to, basically, tries to get a marriage arranged. Brothers trick the whole people of Shechem's people to get their foreskins cut, to be circumcised. And then once that was done, they waited for 3 days and then basically killed all the people. So we're just discussing the moral issues on that, about the all that. Like, do you think, like, my question that I asked earlier was, do you think God was okay with the idea of Simeon and Levi that when they killed all the males and took everything from the city after the circumcision of the people? This is a question for you, Gio.
Oh, it's for me. Oh, I didn't know. Like, sometimes you guys need to specify exactly what you're talking about. Well, I would say is that a lot of things that happened in the Bible doesn't mean that it was actually condoned by God. It doesn't mean anything by that. Matter of fact, there's even parts in the places where actually there was one of the sons tried to sleep with his half sister. Was David's sons. So there's a lot of bad stuff in there. Essentially, what it's trying to tell you is that it's an anthology. It's meant to have a lot of things that are in there. It's not necessarily a moral dilemma. These are things that have been addressed before, but it's just making aware of these circumstances did happen, and to learn from them, and kind of see it as more of a fable. But I wouldn't say it's because it's make-believe or not. I'm just saying that if there's a moral of the story there,
So
perhaps.
a parable.
Yeah, in a sense, think about it as a parable. I'm not saying that therefore it is or it isn't, or if it's fiction or not, but it's just when you look at it for more of a lesson, there's different types of interpretations when Jews do something. They usually there's a deeper meaning behind things. It doesn't mean necessarily that God condones it because it's in the Bible. See, that's one of the things that I think inerrancy has kind of ran rampant with. It doesn't mean necessarily everything that's in there. It doesn't mean it's condoned by God. You know what I mean? Because everybody thinks, oh, it's therefore it's the word of God. Well, not necessarily. It's because it's kind of like an author that writes a villain. Does that necessarily mean that the villain wants to, that the author wants the villain to do that? No, not necessarily. Do they agree with the particular actions? Not necessarily. So kind of see it like that. Like, see it as more of an author or an anthology, an expedition of things. Things, good, bad things happen. And essentially that's what it is. That's always what the Bible's always been known as, but most people take it a little too extreme with the idea of inerrancy. So I'm just saying that pretty much. So you guys can add in your 2 cents.
All right.
I agree. Like I don't want to say that this is an allegory, but I would say that we don't look at these stories like this, stories like the concubine, stories like, I don't know, maybe even the tent stake to the temple. I mean, there's some really kind of weird stories in the Bible, the brother-sister rape. I mean, we don't look at that and go, well, this is how we should live. Or sometimes it's sort of in the gray, and you don't hear a lot of God condemning it, but it's there. I mean, there's a human story in the Old Testament, and we have to realize that there's a human story and there's an evolving, dare I say this, a socially evolving culture. You're seeing a culture and a tribe grow into a nation.
All right. Yeah. And to me, I think the reason why we're able to, because here's some of the things that I've been asked. How do you know if rape or incest? No, not incest. Pedophilia, rape and pedophilia. How do you know those are immoral? Because the Bible doesn't specifically condone it. I come to the idea that, we're made in the image of God, and because of that, we're able to, without being told by a Bible, what is good or what is uh, that because we're reasonable, rational human beings. Okay, hold on a second. Gio, which part? Okay, rape and pedophilia. All right, because this is the first time I've heard. Okay, well there is. All right, I want to hear this one on rape because this I want to use against those people that have doubts on, that try to doubt and use these kind of questions on me. So, Gio, which part of the Bible is rape specifically condemned at?
When you go into Deuteronomy chapter 22, usually it's always mistaken as 28, where they'll say if you rape a person, then you have to marry them. But if you go a lot further back into the chapter, it actually says that if the woman screams, then the woman did nothing wrong, and the man should be put to death. If she was in the fields, no one heard her cry. And the other one is you have to understand that the etymology of the words is that it's when you're referring to Hebrew, it's not necessarily definitively clear for one-to-one precise English. It's kind of, it can have multiple different meanings. What it means is, in a sense, that I would say, if you wanted to put a word to it in 2028, would be more of a coercion of some sort, where you kind of manipulate and force the person to do something against their own will, even though they were still a willing participant. So one has one cries and then the other one doesn't. So what is the difference? And what happens is most of the time the English is actually at fault because it's just because you don't have the particular words to look into, or most of the people just kind of don't see the Hebrew or don't see that, so they'll just go, oh well, this is what the English says, therefore it must be correct. Well, no, that's not necessarily true either. Also, pedophilia, well, there is an age of accountability, which was 13. Most of the time, most people got married around 20 to 21, right before when they got into the military. So the age of accountability and that, well, most of the time people would get married right around 13. So that was the cultural understanding at that given time. So anything that was before that, it would actually would be, why would you do that? Like, unless there's something going on that we should know about. But essentially, it's because that people had less time frame to live. So what they did was they actually took a woman right around when she was at the time of age of her bar mitzvah, which is around 13, and actually married. And usually you would get with probably somebody a little bit older, maybe in their 30s or 40s, because they already had a career or something that could sustain the woman. Essentially what the other lady was saying is that there's an evolving narrative that's been going on, especially within the 21st century with Freudian developmental psychology, which has moved it to 18, because we have to understand that 13 and 18 from a 2,000-year difference is going to be a big-time significant difference, because maybe a 13-year-old understood more when they were compared to an 18-year-old now, living 2,000 years ago in the Bronze Age. So just something to keep in mind. I'm not saying that this is true or not, but more of a Jewish perspective, giving you multiple perspectives so you can make more of a solid conclusion. All right, I'm pretty much done.
All right. Gio is definitely an interesting person. If there was anything that I am concerned involving Old Testament, I would definitely try to go to him on certain topics. If he is able to tomorrow, I think the next topic will be Sodom and Gomorrah. So we'll try to cover that, and hopefully he can make it to there to offer more of the perspective on that. But we haven't heard from Keefe's in a while. Keefe's, what have you been making of this whole thing?
Keefe's.
Okay, apparently he's dead, so we'll go to Candy.
Resurrect him.
I'm okay.
Oh, wait, hold on a second. There he
he's
is.
back.
I don't know what happened. Maybe the devils got to him and...
No. I was just
I
high.
did say resurrect him.
Oh,
I'm not saying
well,
anything. I'm just really magical.
I thought he came back alive whenever Candy's name was heard. Maybe that's a special effect of Candy's name.
Candy's magic.
Wow, what'd you do?
Are we gonna start a cult now? What's going on?
I don't know.
I would worship that cult. I would be in that.
Now we're really heretics if people haven't thought we were
Sorry,
already.
dude. I'm just really out of it.
Did you smoke the weed, or are you just really tired?
He
Nah,
smoked
I
the
smoke-
weed.
Did
Yeah.
you say smoke the weed?
He
Yeah.
smoked the weed.
That's so lame.
What weed was it? Was it dandelion?
No, it wasn't dandelion, man.
Damn.
Something stronger.
All right, so Keefies, while you're okay, so while you're stoned, I guess,
Yeah.
enlighten us on this topic that we've been discussing.
I'm
You
just
can't have
saying,
stoned
rape
the
is
whole
bad, niggas. Don't
cereal.
do it.
They not
Don't do that
stoned.
shit, man. Don't be doing that raping shit, man.
All right,
That's what Kiwi's got out of it. Don't be doing that
Just
rape
don't
shit,
rape.
man.
Just
yeah,
don't
don't.
rape. You get your dick
Yeah,
skin
man.
cut off.
All right,
Yeah, you don't
And-
want your penis missing, then how are you supposed to pee?
And
all right.
don't trick a whole town of people to circumcise themselves just to kill them later.
You gotta think it's
how
just
it
the
is.
desert.
Oh,
Look,
you gonna kill
Yeah.
him? Kill him,
Not
just
good.
kill him.
All right, so now Matt.
is
Matt.
Lou left?
She said she was uncomfortable with this topic, so I don't feel. Yeah. Oh,
Oh, man,
I
where
didn't even-
shall he go?
Raping foreskins. I mean,
I didn't
come
even
on.
talk to her. Okay, I'm gonna go talk to her because I missed where she said, "Is it okay if I drop out?" I would have told her
Wait,
yes.
is this your
Let's
call?
talk
Because
to
if
her
you drop
after
out,
this.
we cease being live.
Yeah, talk like later. That's,
Well,
oh,
she's
we
a
got
big
Rafe.
girl.
Rafe's in the
She can
building.
handle it.
No, I'm
Yeah.
gonna do this in the I am, but Matt and of course Rafe, both of our Calvinists slash experts on biblical exegesis and studies are here. So we've already gone over the entire principles and concepts. But Matt, I'm gonna start with you. So hopefully maybe Rafe can get something to go on. What? Okay, so what were we just? Okay, what were they were saying? What do you think is the moral of the story, or the tale that's being told in
Does
this?
there have to be a moral?
Don't rape.
Well, I don't know. You should try to find something to get from.
Well, what I
Yeah,
get
From
is the
Calvin's
vigilante.
perspective, definitely teaches the whole depravity of man, and from both sides.
Yeah, there's
You know
some
what? I
depravity
agree.
going on.
Yes.
Man sucks.
No, there really is some. I mean, you gotta go like this stuff. I remember the first time I ran across this story. I want to say it was like maybe like college age, and I was reading it, and I was like, did I just read this right? Let me read this again. And then I remember telling my Bible story, my Bible study about the story, and they were like, "Oh, I've never read that." And then someone else showed me the story about where Moses's wife threw the foreskin at God's feet, and I was like, "What?" So there's some weird stories in the Bible, and this is one of the weird ones.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's just
Yeah.
nasty.
I mean, if I was a god, I would love if people threw their foreskins at me, but that's just me.
there's just some weird stories in the Bible. This is one. So what's the moral of the story? Well, I think rape is bad. It always is bad.
Well, I
And
got circumcised when I was younger.
and we see the emotions that rape causes. The brothers were upset, and then they're like tenfold. And and boy, tenfold they did. They convinced them to circumcise themselves by saying, if you want to get married to one of our beautiful women, you got to circumcise themselves. And then they believed them, and then they went in and they slaughtered them. So
Wait
we
a
see
minute.
we
Wait
see
a
rape
minute.
and vigilante justice. And what's the point? Well, it doesn't wrap it up in a bow, but we could infer that that wasn't a good thing.
No, hang on. Like, how are they? How are they supposed to bang if they don't have a dick?
No,
Circumcision
Keefe,
is just the foreskin, Keepies.
yeah,
Huh?
it's the skin that covers
Oh.
the head of your dick.
And if you want to learn more about what that is and what that isn't, I suggest you talk to the men in an off-air hangout sometime, and they can
Yeah.
talk to you about it.
No.
Look up
I
some
get it.
pictures.
I get it now. Just that I'm kind of high. Sorry about that. That's all coming back to me. Right. Never mind. That was
All
a
right.
brain fade. That was a big
All right.
brain fart.
Poor Christian anarchist.
Yes, I am going to listen to all this. I've heard
Hey, man.
penis this, penis that. Okay, let's go back to. All right, let's do some more exegetics. Rafe, what can you tell us about this story?
Well, it's a recording of history.
Right. don't mean when I say story. I don't mean like
No. I know
parable.
that. I know what you mean. I would say it's a recording of history, and it's not a teaching of doctrine. So it's not as
Right.
if the Bible is condoning something like this.
No, it's just telling what happened. It doesn't necessarily mean that's what you're supposed to do.
Do you like? Okay, so I'm pretty sure some of the most, if not most of the people,
It's
agree that the
historic.
idea that when the brothers slaughtered the men of the town of the people of Shechem and all that,
Shechem.
do you think that they were justified in killing all of the male, even when because Dinah was raped?
I would say definitely not.
Right, let's-
Should the men that were involved in raping her be punished? Definitely. Should
this
the
one
whole city? No.
this question's for Rafe.
Sorry. I wanted
That's
to say
cool.
it anyway.
Well, I
Alright.
don't know the story good enough. Did God command them to kill those people?
No,
Well,
like God's
no.
not even mentioned in the tales.
Right.
Shows
That's
that
the thing. That's the thing. I would say probably not then.
all right, because all that happens later after that is that Jacob's upset because now he's worried that his city, his house, is going to be destroyed, and they of course say, should he deal with our sister as with a harlot? So that's all. Okay, Deidre, I'm gonna read your private thing here from the
Whoa.
from the side chat. I mean, I'm not trying to be lewd, but the Bible is a bit forward, which of course we all know is.
Yeah.
I mean, if you read Genesis, you know that Lot banged his daughters.
Yes.
Doesn't
Yes.
mean that
Or
God
the
approves of
daughters
banging
being
your
blood,
daughters.
actually. You
Yes,
might
We
be
do
looking
not.
at
and
women to
bang and
man
it
rape.
did.
We don't condone. We don't allow that, and I don't think God would either.
No,
Wait,
because
we don't?
it's a really bad thing.
We don't like the. I don't think we.
No.
I mean, I don't know really, because I don't
There's
think.
emissions of horses in there, and there's this whole Song of Solomon thing. I mean, the Bible is X-rated.
Yeah, I mean, that's.
Certain
Yeah, if
parts
you
are
if you were to
X-rated.
make a movie of the Bible, it'd have like the highest rating.
Keefe's, you're high. Go home.
I'm just
Holy crap.
Jesus.
trying to play part of the conversation.
Alright. Okay, so.
I'm still kind of here.
Alright,
In the
so.
future, you gotta give me a heads up if we could come in here high. Because I am severely underprepared for this Bible study, apparently.
Okay, this,
Clearly, I mean, here I'm a Californian. I don't partake, and I'm missing out.
Yeah, I'll run some high hangouts sometimes.
some of my best moments are sober, to be
Can
honest.
can I be drunk instead of high? I don't
I don't
partake.
think. Well, as long as you don't throw up on your computer, I don't mind.
I don't know if drunken and high Bible studies are pleasing to God, so I'm just going to put that out there.
You know what? Fair enough. Let's just try to keep it pure and holy then. Now that Deidre brought that up.
Well, they did drink wine in the Bible. So.
All right, you only get one glass, and that's it.
I can
it's
deal
gotta
with that.
It's got to be red wine.
Red wine?
Red wine.
I don't like wine. Can it be brandy?
You're moving right along.
Moving right along, yes. Matt, if there's any, okay, I don't know, maybe if I asked you this or if I asked somebody else this, if there's anything we can learn from this account, what would that be?
Total depravity, sin begets
Oh, yeah.
sin.
Yeah, I did
Yeah.
ask you that. Total depravity.
Yeah, you got three big things there going on.
Rafe, would you agree?
Oh yeah.
All
We
right.
can learn that we're not supposed to take everything in the Bible's doctrine.
Well, no, I don't think any of that was mentioned. That once again,
Yes.
Keithies, you are way too
let's
high.
learn this phrase. The Bible is infallible and inerrant in everything that it affirms. Job's friends said some things that were lies. Satan said some things that were lies. So not everything the Bible says it affirms. Sometimes it records the devil. Sometimes it records people that are talking which aren't
Yeah.
the words of God. the Bible
Yeah,
doesn't
that's what
want
I'm
to
trying to
affirm.
say.
So
Well
It could
said,
be
that's
Rafe.
history. That's history. That's what I'm trying to
Here,
say.
here. Well said, Rafe.
How do you know who in the Bible was speaking from God and who wasn't?
Well,
Clear when you read it. If you don't read it out of context,
Context.
Context. Okay,
It'll say the Lord's
how do I
Prayer.
know
Context.
who in the Bible was speaking from God's point of view and who wasn't?
How do you know when you read a newspaper who's speaking? You read it. You read it in context.
So, well,
That's a dumb analogy.
okay.
I mean,
So
hold
with
on.
regards to
no, that was a perfect analogy
No,
because
it wasn't.
Just
It was-
read
I
it.
guess what
actually,
he's I guess what he's trying to say is, how do you know that God spoke the word to these people? And that's the thing. And that's where the faith thing is, because
But if
they
it's
say
if
they
it's
have
in the
these.
red text, that means
And
Jesus
that's the end
said
of the
it.
questions.
Well, there's that. Yeah. If it's
okay,
in red
If it's in red, it's God.
or
if
or
it's
Jesus.
red, Jesus said it. Katie's. Oh my gosh,
Okay.
you're killing me today.
he ain't too drunk. He sure right.
so with regards
Well,
to
here's the thing. With the newspaper, you can see who wrote the article. You can you can see who's speaking in the article, and you can look up those people who are involved in that article. With the Bible, you have no frame of reference whatsoever aside from what's said in it. That's not fair.
Well,
Okay,
there is some
so,
people we can. Well, there's some historical things we can find, archaeology-wise and whatnot. There's some parts that aren't found yet, probably, or might not exist. But
Like
then
Well,
again,
slavery in
there's
Egypt.
there's the
article,
possibility.
if someone is dead and the article is giving an account of a homicide, they you don't have a witness that in that case either.
Good
Um,
point.
Yeah, and how often do we find out that we were wrong in those cases?
Okay,
we find out that we're wrong all the time.
okay,
All
so
the
to
time.
explain-
That's
so-
the false claim there.
No, it's not.
so
People
wait,
are acquitted after they were put to death.
All the time?
Well, I wouldn't say all the time. No, that's an exaggeration.
Okay,
But it does happen often.
Yeah.
So just from my point of view with regards to biblical exegesis and seeing what the Bible does affirm, the first thing you have to look at is first the genre of the book. So there are various genres of books in the Bible. Think of it as a library. You have things that are apocalypse. You have things that are prophetical. You have things which are historical, and you have things which are legal. You have things. So you have various different genres. Then what you do from there is look to the genres and look to, okay, if I was writing this genre, what message am I trying to communicate to the person who's reading it? So if that's the case of how someone looks at it through the genre, then derives how someone would be communicating that message, you kind of read it from that ideal template in the specific or particular text. So for example, let's take the book of Job. What is the book of Job? Well, it's a huge parallel. Once upon a time, there was Job. And yes, we could argue what genre Job is, but so it's a big, either a parable or
It's not
a huge.
comedy.
It's not a comedy.
It's not a comedy.
Or a huge historical, or maybe even a historical report. But anyway, if you're writing this out, the main thing you want to get across is the message. So you have certain people. Think Job first. He's the protagonist. He's the person you center on and follow throughout. What do his friends play? Well, they play the role of the antagonist. There's somebody who the plot is using not to affirm the main message of the plot, but they're being used as a way to kind of show what not to do, what the person who's going against the main message is doing. And then as you follow Job along, you look to the ending or the climax, which is the whole point of the revelation. You look to God declaring that his wisdom is higher than the wisdom of man. So that's how you go from the book of the Bible. You narrow it down to the genre, then you narrow it down to the particular, to the message, and you put the particular through the ideal template, and you get the main message out by looking at all the various tools the author would be using to communicate his main message. Does that help?
Well, I have three things about that. The first is I would argue that not very much, if anything at all, in the Bible is historical.
Okay.
The second thing is, even in today's literature, even in a lot of classic literature, you see that no matter what genre it is, there can be stories from the antagonist's point of view who was made the protagonist and made the good guy. For example, we have Peter Pan. We have stories, adaptations today where Captain Hook is the good guy and Peter Pan is the bad guy. And the last thing is, how do we know that the person that wrote about Job wasn't the liar and the people who were writing against him were not the liars?
Okay, so to
Right, hold on.
Wait.
Hold on, we're out of time. We can take this to the off air if y'all want to continue with this. But that was our topic for the night, the Genesis. I know, but hey, I'm gonna be like that. It's gonna be like one of those cliffhangers, you know. But yeah, Genesis 34 is what we talked about, and I think we managed to get a good discussion from this. Definitely got us exploring. I got to hear Rafe laugh.
What are you talking about?
I heard you. Either that or something was blowing up over on your microphone, because I saw your audio was coming through on yours whenever the joke was made by Candy about Keefe's was actually not too much drunk to get something right.
Oh.
All right, but there's one thing. I want to ask Gio a question. Gio, when you pray, do you say your prayers in Hebrew? I'm not sure what your tradition. At least that's what I've heard. I mean, I'm not trying to sound racist. Not trying to sound racist, bro.
Come on, anarchist. I know you're better than that. You're better than that, buddy.
Because if he does, then I have an idea that I want to offer, though.
Oh.
Try it in English. That's his idea. Try it in English.
Wait, hold on a second.
It can be English or it can be actually Hebrew. It doesn't matter to me. It's not like I'm necessarily
Sounds
gonna
cool.
call that.
Understand
Hebrew,
it.
man. I like Hebrew.
Right. But Gio, do you know any prayers in Hebrew? Like if you would lead us.
Not right offhand, but I just have to get my prayer book. That's pretty much it. I can actually say it, but most of the time it's actually it's just certain things that I would. What I could do is I could always refer you to links, but besides the point. But well, if you guys are interested, just let me know. Just message me, and I'll be more than happy to send you guys links. Pretty much.
What I wanted to do was let Candy lead us in prayer in English, and then if you wanted to, Gio, you could lead us in prayer in Hebrew. If you're okay with that.
Oh, that sounds cool. Do that.
I don't have anything prepared yet, but if we can, okay.
Just Google it, bro.
Wait, hold on. Hold on.
But no, if you guys can give me until tomorrow, I could actually find something.
Here, I can Google it for you if you
I'll lead
want.
an atheist prayer.
Okay.
I'll lead an atheist prayer.
I
How's
can
that?
Google it.
We'll just go with Candy's.
Hang on, I'll type in Hebrew prayer.
All right, hold on.
No, Keefe, we don't want you to rock a Hebrew prayer. We don't.
Hold on. Hey, everybody, we need to wrap this up. But I'm going to explain. Candy, at the end of every theological discussion, we like to end our shows with prayer. And whoever's new, that's a Christian, if they want to end us in prayer, then, basically, whoever's new, you're going to be tortured, and you're going to be the one that ends us in prayer. So, would you like to lead us?
Sure.
All right.
Cool.
I love to pray.
All right, here we go.
Father God, we thank you for this coming together. It's such an awesome thing that we as people can come and gather and respect one another enough to learn together. And we thank you for being in our midst, and we thank you for giving us understanding on this subject, and we pray that everyone learns something that they can use in their everyday life, because it's not just about reading and learning about what happened in the past or in the history of our brothers and sisters, but that we can learn from those experiences to make us better people and to be the people that you ordained and predestined that we should be. And Lord, we thank you right now, and we give you all the praise, the glory, and the honor because you are worthy. And Lord, we ask that you would show yourself to those that don't know you that are in this meeting, and continue to reveal yourself in an awesome way to those that already know you. And we thank you for doing this because we know this is in accordance with your will, and that's a done deal.
Amen.
Amen. I like how she rhymed that at the end. According to your will, it's because it's a good deal. I like that.
A done deal.
All right. But, hey, that was Theological Discussion. So, until then, Shalom Aleichem.
Subscribe to Christian Anarchist.
Subscribe.
Peace be upon you, because I
Share to
wish that
comment and
upon you.
rate.